is helping women take up more space in their bodies, in life. Hello! So we're going to go through some of the things that I'm teaching in my masterclass coming up called Sassy, Sweet and Spicy. So you can feel more of that sass. And the meaning of sass, which I used to be very repellent of when I was a bit younger, is actually means being bold and fresh and having vitality, having that super fiery energy backing you, okay? And this stems from also a question I had, because I have a cool guy that you can activate your feminine fire with, and there's a few little pieces that you can work through yourself. But one of the beautiful clients I had was like, yeah, but how do I actually integrate all of this? So these steps that I'm going through today will also help with that, to allow you to take up more space. Hello. So how to be more sassy, sweet and spicy. Let's get into it. The integration of feminine energy and embodiment is key here. So many of us are afraid of actually feeling our whole spectrum of feelings. There's a beautiful book called I think there's two books that he's written. One's The Glass Ceiling and the other one, Take the Leap. He talks about the glass ceiling. And then another one, it's all about we have this thermostat, right? And the thermostat is determined by our beliefs and how much joy and feelings we allow ourselves to have. So then if we see someone that's maybe overjoyed and super high on life, we kind of sitting on this level here and we're like, oh, how are they so energetic and happy? They must be, I don't know, people we'll put it down to they must be on crack. They'll go into all these variations of how and why and make reasons for it. But it's really our own allowance of letting us feel those feelings. And the spectrum, that's so important to know that when you're more and more in your feminine, my coach went through this morning, it's more about allowing yourself to have more and more of a range as well. So as well as feeling those high highs, you're also allowing yourself to go into the lows and actually fully embrace them in your body and then move through and keep going, okay? So you're kind of creating this capacity in your body to feel more. And how do we do that? Yeah. So I used to be like that as well. I was always very afraid of feeling the uncomfortable stuff. I was always that very always positive girl. Hello. Yeah, I was always very positive and wanted to be upbeat and put good energy into the world. And I still do. It's a good intention. But it ended up me people pleasing a lot. And so I would do it out of a fear of not wanting to disappoint others. So it was that good girl mask of okay, if I do this right and do this right, and everyone will be happy and I'll be seen as a good person. And some of you guys might know my story already, but in 2019, I had a bit of a shakeup and it was really necessary and it was brilliant. And from there on, it was through relationship drama, but also just hitting a rock bottom of I've had enough of trying to just be this perfect person that I was trying to curate and being this up-leveled version of me, and finally embracing just all the parts of me, the flaws, the everything. And that was leading me into shadow work and all the things that I teach now. So I remember even I had an old friend actually send me a 7-page letter after I set some healthy boundaries, calling me a narcissist. So there was extremes. When I finally then tuned into my body, I was no, I'm looking after my own energy and I'm going to set some boundaries here and I'm going to say no to this and I'm going to say in a kind way. I wasn't doing it in a rude way or anything, but then things started to crumble around me as well. And that's where you really have to be solid in yourself too, because you're okay, so the more I tune into this, the more I tune into my body and what my actual desires are, the more things will start to align, which means destruction as well. And that's what we're a lot of the times afraid of. So to be more sassy, sweet and spicy again, which is what we're going to go through the masterclass I'm going to have. So write down spicy below if you want to get you the link to it. It's about being bold, being fresh and being in your body. So doing the feminine energy work. Now, how do we do that? You got to get into your body. That's number one key. So I'm a somatics coach and I do EFT tapping as well. There's different modalities you can turn to. But the funny thing is, like, the moment we turn the volume down on our brains, on our minds that are overthinking and trying to like predict the future all the time, that's when you really feel the essence of who you actually are. And that's what makes you magnetic. Like when people see people that are like so just acceptance of themselves and that like just love being themselves in the moment, they have come down to that core piece of themselves and accepted all their parts of themselves. They're not trying to not be this and not be that, because the problem isn't like, oh, am I good enough? I don't know. Am I like, the self-doubt creeps in for everyone, but it's not about like, the problem isn't that actual piece of self-doubt or the piece of like, am I not good enough or am I inferior? The problem is you not wanting to be inferior or not good enough. All right, so how can you, instead of go, okay, like, let's see all the ways that I can do this and look on the bright side, which is a lot of the times the advice that you get. Instead, you just maybe say, all right then, well, how am I not good enough? And just sit with that for a moment, which I know can be like, what? And that's where the somatic practices come in so well, because we can do it on a body level and we can kind of dance with it. We can let the characters in ourselves speak. And that really lets you listen, because it's kind of like if you're creating characters in your body and you're listening to what the movements of your body are trying to say and the embodiment of it, it's a way of like understanding, okay, I can have both polar opposites. I don't need to choose one. I don't need to box myself into one, which is that perfectionism. And I can embrace both and fly with it. Okay, so it's about, yeah, like real deep acceptance, really. And that's what I had to go through as well, because I was like, all right then. Like, and that's what happens when you hit rock bottom. It's not when you're succeeding, it's when you're in that place of like the low where you go, okay, like, I'm still alive, I'm still standing, and you kind of just like get sick of pretending anyway. I am so hot because I've closed all the windows and the flies came in if I open the door, so I'm gonna air conditioning. All right, so I'm gonna give you 3 pointers of how you can actually start to do this with yourself, because we want to raise that baseline. Okay, we want to raise your internal thermostat. He calls it in that book that I was referring to. I can't remember the bloody author's name. It's called Leap, The Big Leap. And the thermostat, when you level it up by like regulating your nervous system regularly, by doing the thing that scares you, that's when you start to allow yourself to feel more of those feelings and really just like sit with it. So one of the ways that I love to do this is through sensory activation. So whether you, maybe the other day, for example, I found myself, again, I'm human, in my head, I was kind of like going through things like scenarios, how's it going to turn out, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I just need to get into my body. So I set some time aside and I did like a little self-massage Ayurvedic style. Okay, there's different things you can do. But really just allow yourself to activate your senses. That will bring you back into your feminine because you're in your body. That's my number one key. The second one would be to explore some shadow work. So shadow work is, so good and juicy, because the shadow is basically a piece of you that you've rejected for a while. Again, back to that, like the problem being you not wanting to be that, rather than actually maybe some of me isn't good enough for some people. Who cares, right? It's more you having the issue of it not being good enough that is the issue. So then looking at these shadows of like what your fears are, because what we again, my mentor said this morning, more and more, what we resist persists. Okay, so this will keep showing up for you until you actually address it. So the shadow side for me was like this flirty side. Because I was in a long-term relationship for a while, I kind of shut that down a bit because I got some wrong responses, but like it was just like I didn't want to deal with the responses of maybe then having to be like, oh no, oh hang on, I'm in a relationship, like I didn't mean to come across that way. So I avoided being flirty in general. And that was really sad because that kind of switched off a big part of my feminine, fiery side and my creativity. And just for like safety and that, I kind of switched it off for a while. And so then recently I was like, okay, so then I realized looking at other people is where we can see this the best. You can ask questions like, what is it about others that kind of bothers you or annoys you? Again, that overjoy. Or for me, let's say in that scenario was when someone was overly flirtatious, I was always like, ugh, like why are they doing that? But they were just literally just being themselves and just being like a bit cheeky and curious. And so then I had to dive in and be like, all right, well, maybe I'm like that too. And I can just like embrace it more. And more and more you do that, the more you heal that and expand that capacity again to be both. All right. And then the third one I'll leave you with today, because I want to keep it short and sweet, is safety in self. So finding your safety in yourself. And like why, let's go back to again, why are we even wanting to like be more spicy, sassy, and sweet? By embracing our feminine, we can enhance, so we can elevate our energy first of all, stop feeling like you're in that dull, diluted version of yourself, which is where I found myself in 2019, but also amp up your like relationships. Feel like you've got that honeymoon phase again in your long-term relationship. Enhance your relationships with all the men in your life, or the women as well, and your money. Like just getting into your feminine allows you to flow through life with a bit more ease and feel like yourself again, essentially. Like you're not trying to be anyone else. I remember the day I got into yoga teaching, and I remember the day that I was like, I'm going to stop putting my personality to the side, because I would literally, it was like a thing of like when I'd walk through the door, the personality would stay behind, and I would be like this professional yoga teacher, and I would like have to be this like pro guide and be able to guide my students to this and this and this, and it was just like, what? And only when I took a step back and kind of did this deeper work, I realized, and I was like, why am I just not being my quirky, weird and wonderful self? Because that's more relatable anyway. And all the students then started to like connect with me more and open up and be like, oh, like, you know, from then on, when I was like, I'm going to bring my personality, my full personality to the table of everything I do. It doesn't matter if I have to be professional, because that's just going out the window. Like I can still be professional in a sense of like, you know, to being direct, having purpose, being strong-minded, having my dark feminine energy speak up for myself, and all those things. But hello, Brooke. And yeah, so then finding safety in yourself. And this is what I've spoken about multiple times. Multiple times in the past as well, about like this concept of a circle. And I'll leave you with this today. So there's like the core of us in the center. And a lot of us on this next layer is pieces of our life that we, like the areas of our life that we draw confidence from and feel safe in. So maybe it's your family. You find safety in your family because they're stable, they're sturdy, they're always there for you to support you. Or maybe your career, you're really good at it and you get a lot of like good feedback, you thrive and you pride yourself in that area. And so we have these areas of our lives and these roles we play where we maybe draw all our confidence and our sense of self and safety from as well. And then the third layer after that is like more of the outer area, core one of like just how you're perceived as well as confident. So maybe you're just acting a bit more confident, the way you walk, people like see that. But the thing is, and this is like a key to the mental well-being situation the world is in. This is like a key core piece that everyone needs to learn, I think. Because if these areas, if we're putting too much of our core sense of safety and self in one of these areas and it starts to change, maybe things aren't the way that you used to like them to be. Maybe you lose your job. Your career crumbles. Maybe your family separates somehow. Maybe there's even like worse, grief. You've lost someone that's close to you. If those things then happen and we're not tapped into that deeper self piece by doing this work, then our world crumbles. And that's where we find ourselves in these places where we're like, well, if that's not my identity and that's not who I am, who the fuck am I? And then you're like, what? And then that's when you start to get deeper into these pieces of like, okay, like you notice your body more, you feel into the senses, and then you step forward from there and you find your way again, right? And the thing I'm trying to say here is that you need to find your sense of safety within yourself, no matter what. And always be proud of yourself for doing whatever you do, regardless of the outcome. Like, just be in the present. And this is one of the concepts as well that I won't get into now, but Benjamin Hardy goes through as well. Like, our future shapes our future, not our past. We can always change our past by just the perception and how we read that story and what we make it mean in this present moment. It's constantly reshaping. I hope that gives you some edge, some confidence to go forward, and maybe use that like compassion, have curiosity with yourself, and have some courage to actually like step forward and do these things. So get into your body, lean into some practices that I've got in my website. Do some of the stuff like in some of the other videos that I have to fire up your dark feminine. So be more cheeky, have those boundaries set for yourself. And this is all an internal metric. So it's not about seeking validation. It's not about being the perfect version of you. It's not about pleasing anyone. You're just doing it for your own internal metric system of like, okay, like I like what I'm doing. I like who I am. I'm accepting it all and going from there. Any questions, you guys, about embracing and embodying our feminine? Leave them in the comments below. Like I said, I'm going to pop this live up on YouTube if you want to have a listen to the whole thing, if you joined later. And I need to get off because I'm like super sweaty and I need to go pick up my son. But I hope that helps, and I hope you can jump into the masterclass I'll be running in a few weeks, and also dive into the practices I have. Like, I've got a free tapping practice you can have a taste of and a free somatic practice. Just message me and I'll send the link your way. Bye for now.